We are pleased on this Friday morning to be joined by Trevor Matich, our Redskins analyst. Okay, Trevor, Jacksonville Jaguars is one thing, but the Eagles, that's a whole different kettle of fish, as they say.
That's exactly right, and all the people that were so excited about Kirk Cousins being the greatest quarterback since Joe Montana, they'll have a better test. Now, the Eagles' defense is still not one of the top tier in the NFL, but it is much, much better than what Cousins had to face against Jacksonville. So you'll have a much better test, a much better idea of whether or not he can carry this team.
You know, I was looking at the interweb, and I saw that Kurt Warner had put out his list of his top quarterbacks for Week 2, and right below Aaron Rodgers, and I believe it is right above, Jay Cutler. He's number 4, Kirk Cousins.
Well, I love Kurt Warner, but I'm not ready to say that yet. Just because against Jacksonville, there were so many massive spaces. They played so soft. And the thing I want to see improvement in Kirk Cousins is this. When he throws the ball on time, he's very accurate. But when he doesn't throw on time, when he has to look around and find a receiver, he tends to throw at that receiver. So the ball ends up behind the receiver by the time it gets there. And that's when he throws interceptions. So that's what to watch from Cousins in this game.
That's interesting.
When he plants that back foot and drives the ball, that he's accurate. What I want to see, and fans should be watching, when he plants the back foot and then waits, sees a guy, then throws, is that ball in front of the receiver or behind him? If it's in front, then Cousins has gotten better, and he has helped with one of the things that caused him trouble.
Hey, Trevor, it's interesting. It's very rare this early in the season in Game 3 where you've got two teams, the Eagles and the Redskins, who already have a common opponent. The Eagles played the Jaguars the first game of the season. Now, they won as well, not quite as resounding as the Redskins win. But what was interesting is they fell behind 17-0 in the first half of that game, and it took a second half comeback. What does that tell you about the Eagles, and can we learn anything about the common opponent that we've had?
You know, Larry, I wish that could tell us something, and maybe it does. Maybe the Eagles are a bit overrated. I hope so. But they committed, I think, 3 turnovers in that first half. So their drive opportunities to score went away because of turnovers. When they stopped turning it over, they ran Jacksonville out of the stadium just like the Redskins did. Mm-hmm. So that's the big thing. The turnovers, I think, are more of an indicator than any deficiency on the Eagles' part.
Trevor, you mentioned running the Jaguars off the field that the Eagles did, and that's one thing that I've been reading in a lot of analysis of the Eagles is that in both of their games they had really strong second halves, especially the fourth quarter, because head coach Chip Kelly has put together an incredible group of young, athletic players who have great stamina through all 4 quarters. How is that going to stack up against the Redskins' talent?
Yeah, it's really funny that the 2 college coaches, Chip Kelly with the Eagles and then Pete Carroll with Seattle, the college coaches seem to have a better way to do it than the longtime pro coaches. That's kind of funny. But I think stamina this early in the season won't be a big issue for the Redskins. They'll play a lot of snaps, but their bodies have not yet been beaten down by a full NFL season. And I think the most important thing for the Redskins is that they're a lot better. They're a lot more capable of getting the Eagles off the field. When the Eagles get that first down, now they can run a lot of plays. But the Redskins can stop them from doing that. And at linebacker especially, I love London Fletcher. I love him. But London was slow. London was not athletic by the end of his career. And Keenan Robinson, the guy that took over, is very fast and athletic. So against this Eagles defense, you need linebackers that can run. And the Redskins have that right now. So I think you'll see a different kind of a matchup, and that'll keep the Eagles from running 80 plays. The Redskins can get them off the field.
Well, we get Brandon Merriweather back in the secondary, and the question is about Deshaun Jackson. Is he going to play or is he not? I think he really wants to play against the Eagles, his old team, but I don't get a sense that they really know if he can play.
Yeah, I don't know how effective he can be. But neither do the Eagles, and that's the key. They have to respect his speed, and they know his speed because players on that team practiced against him. And so even if he's on the field with a bad shoulder, they have to respect his legs. And even as a decoy, he's effective because if the safety stays deep, it opens up space underneath. And the Redskins right now have one of the deepest and most talented groups of wide receivers in the entire NFL. So there are other guys that can make plays.
And if Deshaun Jackson is actually in better shape than they're letting on, I mean, there's a little gamesmanship that sometimes takes place in those situations, isn't there?
Absolutely. They want the opponent to have to practice against everybody and everything so they cannot zero in on the real threat.
Well, let's not forget Deshaun Jackson was just cut by the Eagles. I know he wants to get out there. If he can walk, he's going to be on the field.
He'll do everything he can to beat them.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And if he can't reach out with his shoulder, he knows that he can still do things with his legs.
And he wants to make that big play in Philadelphia, I'm sure. Hey, Trevor, it was another rough week in the news cycle for the NFL, and you'll be pleased to know that I'm not going to ask you about whether you ever got spanked with a switch, okay? So let's just take that off the table for a minute. I'm tired of former NFL players going on television.
He's a big guy. I don't know anybody who'd want to take him on with a switch.
But again, I got to ask, this stuff, it's so much of it flying around, and so many players, I think, stupidly making comments and putting their foot in their mouth. We saw Reggie Bush do it, and other players speaking to the media about this and digging deeper holes. Has this been a topic of of conversation around the locker room for the Redskins this week? Are they doing a good job of sort of staying away from the controversies and not getting distracted by them?
Yeah, it has to be a conversation with all NFL teams, and I'm sure most NFL teams have brought in media experts to teach their players how to respond. Because if you just say no comment, it sounds to the world like you and your team are indifferent to domestic violence. But if you say something, you could phrase it in a way that could be put out on Twitter and cause a firestorm.
Yeah.
This is one of those situations where NFL football players are required to be something that they're not suited to be. And that is very subtle, nuanced PR people, because they cannot just ignore it, because that also makes a statement.
All right, so predictions?
Predictions. You know, I'm torn on this game. Therefore, I'm taking the Redskins. I think their defense, especially with Jason Hatcher at defensive line, will disrupt the Eagles' offense. I think the return of Brandon Merriweather at safety will make a big impact, low into people's knees instead of high into people's heads. And I think Kirk Cousins will do enough. I think the Redskins shock the world and knock off the Eagles.
Oh, man, and then the quarterback controversy is raging.
They're cheering over in Ashburn, Virginia right now, Trevor.
And Larry will be the happiest man in the world.
All right. Trevor Matich, always a pleasure.
Bye, guys.
Travel well. Talk to you Monday.